This week I'm talking about the movies Too Hot to Handle, Too Cold to Hold. They call the Ghostbusters and they're in control. Hey, it's a lot better than some of the things they do in this movie, but we're going to talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. That's this week's big review. This week I'm talking about the movies. And welcome to Talking About the Movies, where, of course, on the show we talk about the biggest new releases of the weekend, and there's no new release bigger than Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And, as you can see, I couldn't find a Ghostbusters shirt, but I got the next best thing. Garfield, because, Bill Murray was Garfield in the movies. Lorenzo Music from the real Ghostbusters was Garfield in the animated series. I don't know. I literally just put this on because it was the next shirt I had on top of my pile. But anyway, you're not here to see what shirt I'm wearing. We're here to talk about the new movie that came out this week, and that is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So let's get to it. And as per usual with a franchise like this, I might as well talk about my thoughts on the previous films in the series, which really should not be that hard to figure out, honestly, except for maybe one that you might be surprised with. Some of you might be, but first, Ghostbusters is a classic film. I mean, it's a movie that everyone remembers, everyone loves it. Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, William Atherton, Sigourney Weaver, Ivan Reitman, directed it. Of course, Rick Moranis was in it as well. I mean, what more do I got to say about it? It's a classic movie. Anytime it's on, I got to watch it. It's a classic movie on so many levels. Ghostbusters 2, it definitely suffers from sequelitis. It's definitely an inferior film compared to the first movie. But, with that said, it still has a lot of fun elements to it. There's still a lot of fun aspects to it. There are still some really good, funny moments in it. There's still a lot of memorable lines from it. I mean, it's definitely a retread of the first movie, and there's definitely a lot of things about it that could have easily been fixed with a better script, but there was a lot of problems going on behind the scenes of the production, specifically with the studio at the time. But as it is, I like Ghostbusters 2. I think it is a fun film regardless. Ghostbusters 2016, I just watched it again recently. I didn't hate it when it came out. I still don't hate it. I still think it's a fine film for what it is. I like the characters they had: Kate McKinnon, Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, and Leslie Jones. I thought they were fun in the movie. There was definitely a lot of things about it that don't work, and I'll save that for another time. But I don't think it's as bad as everyone made it out to be. It's not. I mean, it's definitely one of the weaker Ghostbusters movies, but at least it's trying to do something a little bit different in some aspects to it. Like, I like some of the things they did with it. Like I said, not a perfect movie, but at the same time, it's still not a bad movie. I don't care what anybody says, that whole controversy back then, it was stupid then, it's stupid now. Yeah, I didn't hate Ghostbusters 2016. Ghostbusters Afterlife, I've talked about it before. It's my second favorite film in the series. My favorite movie of 2021. I mean, the ending of that movie, anytime that's on, I've got to watch it because it's always going to tug at your heartstrings, especially when you consider that Harold Ramis is no longer with us anymore and what they did with him. I like the characters in that movie, too. I like the new characters they add here. I like how they mesh together with the old Ghostbusters. And that, of course, leads us into this movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which the trailer kind of set it up pretty nicely. But it looked like the basic story of this is that it's set after about 2 years after the events of Afterlife. The newer Ghostbusters, the Spangler family has moved back to New York. They moved back into the firehouse that the Ghostbusters have called home, and the veteran Ghostbusters have to join forces with the new recruits to save the world in New York City from a death-chilling god who seeks to build a spectral army. Now, this movie has not been getting good reviews, but as I've said before, if you really Rotten Tomatoes really is not the right place to go to figure out essentially how you should feel about a movie. You should just go to the movie and feel what you see. Is go to the movie and have your own opinion on it, pretty much. Like, Rotten Tomatoes really does not matter as much as it did back in the day. But if you want to bring Rotten Tomatoes into it, it did not get good reviews. It's got like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Cinema score, it's a B+, which is not that great news for the longevity of the film. I think on Metacritic, if I'm not mistaken, it's got like 50-something or something like that. That was close, 46 out of 100, which is kind of on the same pathway as the Rotten Tomatoes reviews. Everyone's been kind of saying, like, oh, it's too much nostalgia baiting, and it's just like, everyone's saying it's a really bad Ghostbusters movie, and like,
you know, naturally, because I was looking forward to this so much, because I loved Afterlife so much, I was going into it with a lot of hesitation. My hype that I had going into it was lowered down a little bit here. And yeah, so apparently everyone said there was a bad Ghostbusters movie that came out this weekend. So I went to go see it, and I came out of it, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, I thought it was fun. I mean, that's really the best way to describe Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's a fun movie. If you're going in there expecting something on like a powerhouse like Ghostbusters Afterlife was, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. And honestly, I really wasn't going into that. I think Ghostbusters Afterlife served as a perfect ending to the original Ghostbusters legacy. See, having them come together at the end to help with the new kit with the new guys to help defeat the bad guy in that movie, which was Gozer, of course, from the first movie, but but I didn't mind it so much. But I mean, that movie was pretty much a Jason Reitman Ghostbusters movie, but this one definitely feels like a movie directed by Gil Kennan. It's funny because when I was coming out, I was thinking about it this way. It's just like Ghostbusters Afterlife felt like a Jason Reitman Ghostbusters movie written by Gil Kennan. This feels like a Ghostbusters movie directed by Gil Kennan and written by Jason Reitman. It feels like two different mindsets coming on both of these movies. Like this movie definitely suffers a lot from. I don't even think it suffers a lot from sequelitis like Ghostbusters 2. It's just kind of, it's weird. The story, I think, really is the biggest flaw of the movie. I think there's a lot of things about it where you can see the possibilities there with what they're doing with the story. I mean, you're bringing back classic Ghostbusters characters. I mean, not just Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, but Annie Potts is back as Janine. You know, you got William Afferton back as Walter Peck, who's now the mayor of New York, which I think is kind of hilarious, even though they don't really do a whole lot with him. And I mean, even with Janine, they don't really do a lot with her. I mean, you get to see her in the Ghostbusters suit at the end, kind of like in the real Ghostbusters animated series, but then again, there's not really a whole lot they do with that. And, you know, you could definitely see what Patton Oswalt was talking about. When the first trailer came out, he was talking about the sense that him and Kumail Nanjiani were talking about the sense that this was supposed to be kind of like a real Ghostbusters episode. And you can definitely get the sense of that because you can definitely tell that that's what they're trying to accomplish here with like the different, because like they're just kind of setting up new villains in here while also acknowledging that there's the classic ghosts that are still in here. And in a way that's kind of cool, but at the same time I kind of wish they did more with it. I think that's one of the biggest flaws with the movie is that there's so much possibilities with what they could do with this, and they don't really do a whole lot with it. I think there's is not just with the story perspective, but like having the Ghostbusters in here. Like if the original Ghostbusters didn't come back in this, I think that this movie probably would have benefited more from it. I mean, yeah, it's cool to see Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd. It's cool to see Aykroyd, Murray, Hudson, Potts, and Atherton back again, but you gotta give them more to do here. Like they joined in the final battle at the end of the movie, but unlike the last movie where they're actually helping the new Ghostbusters, they're not really doing anything. They just try to help them out, and then all of a sudden, the bad guy stops them, and it's just like there's literally nothing else they can do. It's just they're literally stuck behind ice throughout the rest of the fight. Them and also the new Ghostbusters as well. But like they're not really doing a whole lot there, and I think that's kind of one of the things that I really was a letdown for it. But again, it's great to see them back again. It's great to see that they are still having some fun here. The fact that they were able to get Bill Murray back for this after all those years of saying he would never do a Ghostbusters 3 unless they killed him off, and then sure enough in 2016's Ghostbusters they kill him off. It's just like I like the fact that they were able to convince him to not only come back for the last film but also this one as well. But and again, like Dan Aykroyd seems like he's the one that's having the most fun with this. Like he's the guy that clearly seems like he's still got a lot of attachment to this. I mean, this is his. I mean, then again, this is his baby. So, I mean, but I am glad to see. But they are still putting the commitment to it. You can still see them in these characters after all these years, even if they're not given too much to do. That's what I kind of have to admire about the movie is that they're still committed to doing this. They still believe that there's a lot there, and it's just that it's good seeing them again, but I kind of wish they still had some more stuff to do. I mean, honestly, I wish they had more to do within the story, but they're not the only problems with the movie, unfortunately. So the newer characters from the last movie are back. Pretty much everybody. Paul Rudd's back. Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, Celeste O'Connell, Logan Kim. They're all back from this movie, and kind of like with most sequels, some of them is some characters kind of regress, but some characters kind of improve. Like I love how in this movie Carrie Coon, who plays Phoebe's mother, like she was more straightforward, like a regular mother in Ghostbusters Afterlife. But in this movie, she kind of plays it up for she's playing it up more for a little bit more of a comedic edge to it. It felt like she was more laid back in this movie, and I kind of like that. I didn't know how to feel about that at first, that she really wasn't given like that same kind of angle that she was given in the first movie. But you know what? She finally got to see what her father's work was all about in the last movie. So I guess she deserves to be a little bit laid back in this movie. And I like the chemistry that she and Paul Rudd had. I like that they're setting up a relationship with her. I like that they set up a little relationship here. They don't really come out and say that they're engaged or they're married. They're just kind of like they still is like you can see a romance starting to is continuing to build. I don't know if that went in that direction in particular, but it certainly went a lot more than the relationship between Finn Wolfhard and Celeste O'Connell. Like you know how Trevor and Lucky, like they kind of set it up in Ghostbusters Afterlife, but in this movie they really don't set it up here all that much. They see each other again, and then it's just kind of like, that's cool, we're here again. Yeah, okay, back to the story. It's just like, it's kind of a non-factor in the story. Where it really kind of hurt to watch was watching McKenna Grace again as Phoebe Spangler, who I think is still really good. I thought she was definitely one of the stronger aspects of the original of the first Ghostbusters movie, but they're trying to they're trying to expand her story here. Like in the early part of the movie, they basically say that Walter Peck, who's the mayor of the city now, they basically force Phoebe to not work with the Ghostbusters anymore because she's 15, and that's part of the child labor laws. So there's a part in the movie, so there's this arc that goes on where she meets a ghost named Melody, who I thought was Mina Suvari at first, but no, it's this actress Emily Allen Lind, who has done some stuff. She's been in Revenge. She was on Coke Black. She's been in the Babysitter movies. She was most recently in Doctor Sleep. So I've definitely seen her in stuff before, and I couldn't figure it out that was her. And it's weird because at first I thought maybe they were setting up that she was going to talk to, the ghost of her grandfather again. Like you didn't have to have him speak and all that. But the more I thought about it, it's probably better that they didn't do that because they did let him go out on a good note with Ghostbusters Afterlife. So maybe that was a good idea that they didn't go in that direction. But it does set up some nice ideas about what if a human can be friends with a ghost, and she's not bad. The person playing Melody, she's not bad in the movie, and you do like the chemistry that they have together. But yeah, let me put it this way: if you saw Kung Fu Panda 4, you pretty much know what's basically gonna happen. Like, picture what happens to Awkwafina's character in Kung Fu Panda 4, and what she does to Poe. Imagine that to this character what the ghost does to Phoebe in this movie. I mean, like. But at least in Kung Fu Panda 4, they at least had a reason why she did what she had to do in that movie, because the villain took her in when she was out in the streets. Like this chick right here, like her whole thing is just like, I need to see my family, and the only way I can do it is to be, open up the trapped entity inside the orb, which is of course the monster, which is I can't remember who the name, Garaka. Who has a really cool design too. The visuals in here, everyone was saying the visuals were not that great. There's still a lot of really good visuals here. There's a couple of shots here or there that kind of look like something you would see on a PlayStation 4, but at the same time, most of the visuals are still pretty cool to see. But they had this whole arc about how she wants to see her family, and then when she opens the thing up and lets the thing out, and like by the end of the movie, all of a sudden she's just like, okay, I'm working for you now because, I don't know. Like, they don't ever explain, did she ever meet her family? Was she being manipulated by the Garaka? I mean, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever why that's the case here. And it's just there are a lot of things about this movie that they set up, but they never really do anything with. Like, there's a running gag with this thing called the Possessor. They go to this, well, I should say that they go to this place. They go to this place now where they're, okay, so basically what's the main crux of the movie is that the firehouse has has the ghost containment unit, and for about 15 years now, it's been filling up. And so every time they fill up a ghost, the thing gets filled up, and there gets to a point where, the containment unit doesn't want the containment unit is getting too full, and it's getting to the point where the ghost could easily break out of there. So the Winston and the rest of the Ghostbusters have already set up this little area outside of New York where they call the Paranormal Research Center, where they have multiple containment units ready to go, so they can put them in their specific units. And there's this and they have all these different unique ghosts there. And one of the ones they have is the Possessor, who's a possessing ghost, where they can possess it with various different things. It's with anything it touches, and it's like inanimate objects like television, sofas, vacuum cleaners, you name it. And it's this running gag in the movie, and it leads to a couple of pretty good fun little home homages. Like there's one where the Possessor takes control of the lion from the first movie, like at the public library, which, that I thought that was kind of amusing in general, but like they never really do anything with it. He possesses a pizza, and then Slimer, who's back in this movie, basically eats him up, and then story's over. It's just like, and Slimer's like I said, Slimer's in the movie too, but excuse me, but he's only in 2 scenes, and you think there's going to be this big thing with him and Trevor. Like Trevor finds him the first time, and you think it's going to lead to something, but they never bring it back. Like he eats the pizza and then he's just gone. It's just like, and Trevor's just like, I know that guy. And it's just like, well, I'm glad you know him, because I completely honestly forgot that you two had a connection at one point. And like even at the end of the movie, where like everybody's celebrating and all that, there's these subplots that really come out of nowhere, and you really forget that, oh yeah, they were doing that. Like there's a subplot about Callie and Gary trying to, Gary's trying to be a father figure to Phoebe, and he wants to try to, and he's trying to help get Phoebe to go along with this. And there's even a point where they kind of do like something similar to Miles' father in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where they have a scene where he's outside of her room, and he doesn't know that he doesn't know that she's not there, and like in Spider-Man, where where Miles was tied up at that point. But they're trying to do something similar to that. And then by the end of the movie, Phoebe just calls her dad, and it's just like, was that a subplot that we were supposed to be taking? Was that really the point of that? Like, because they never say at any point, that Phoebe doesn't want to call Gary her dad or any way, shape, or form. Like they don't really say anything like that, but like it's like with Shazam. It's like kind of like what happened with Shazam: Fury of the Gods last year. There was that whole subplot where, Billy has trouble calling his adopted mother mom. And then there's a point, and then when the big climax happens, it just kind of shows up there, and it's just like, and again, still similar to that, it's just like, was that a subplot that we were supposed to be following? Was that one of those things that we were supposed to keep up with? Like, I don't know. It just, and like, there's this whole other thing about Kumail Nanjiani's character, who is the Fire Master. Like, he's a guy that he could, like, there's a belief that he may be a ghost. He may have some possessive aspects to it, but like they never really come out and say it though, and they just say that no, he's supposed to be the Fire Master. Like he's supposed to be the one that fights off Garaka, and I guess maybe they're setting up that he's like psychological powers or something like that, but it never really comes back into play, and you're just supposed to accept that he's the Fire Master, and that's just pretty much what he has to be in this situation. It's just like, you could set that up a little bit better than that, guys. I mean, there's no real reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. There's even parts where with the older Ghostbusters where it's just kind of like after they have this big thing where the lion attacks the public library, and Phoebe basically shoots the ghost out of it. There's a part where Winston's just like, "This is our golden years." He's talking to Ray, and he's just like, "Ray, this is our golden years." It's just like, take a vacation, go to the beach or something. And it's just like, okay, why is this a new subplot too? Because they never do anything else with it. It never comes back into play afterwards. It's just like you have all these setups here for potential subplots going on in the storyline, and 9 times out of 10, they don't really ever do anything to really they don't really ever do anything to like go back to it. Like, what was the point of that? Like, why were you setting that up if you were not going to do anything significant with it? You're just doing the stuff to move the plot along here, and none of it's really working all that well. So there are definitely a lot of flaws to this movie. I could see why a lot of people would be upset about this, but you know, and even the nostalgic things about the movie, like all the references. You know, even the ones that are kind of cringy. Like there's one where, you know, there's a part where Gary is talking to Callie, and you know he starts singing the he starts talking and saying the Ghostbusters theme song. It's just like, you know, there's something strange in your neighborhood. Who are you gonna call? Ghostbusters. And there's something weird. They don't look good. Like, I think they know that it's cringy, and I think that for me at least, that's what kind of worked about it. But I don't know. And there wasn't even really that big moment of dreaded fear. Like in the other movies, you could at least sense an evil presence in those movies, like in Ghostbusters, when, you know, Dana's getting attacked in her apartment, and she's about to be turned into a dog, into one of Ghost's minions. Ghostbusters 2, when Peter McNichol kidnaps the baby, and you see the Statue of Liberty, and you see the Ghostbusters having used the Statue of Liberty and all the reverse slime. Like even in the 2016 Ghostbusters, when they're finding the logo, I mean, there's at least is like that. And then Ghostbusters Afterlife, when, you know, Gozer uses Gary and Callie as the things to bring it back into the world, and it's just like there's never that massive moment where, like, okay, the shit's going down here, and like everything is gonna go kaputs. And like in this movie, it never really has that moment. There's times where you think it's gonna be that, like, you know, when, you know, Melody is manipulating Phoebe, or when the death chill actually happens, and you see everybody at the beach and everybody in New York starting to freezing and all that stuff, and like it never gets to that point. It never gets to that point where the other Ghostbusters movies do that, where like the ball drops and that's when the shit hits the fan. Like it doesn't happen in this movie, and that's just one of the many flaws I have with this movie. But I've been mostly negative for this, but let me at least talk about the positives here, because there are a lot of positives. Positively, I think a lot of the actors still make the roles work well, even though some of them have regressed. Like, as much as I think the Phoebe storyline has kind of regressed for the first movie, I still think McKenna Grace has a lot of charm and charisma as Phoebe. Like, you do like I said, I do like the chemistry she has between her and the ghost, and I wish they kind of built the friendship up between them more. Like, let's have a storyline where Phoebe actually becomes friends with a ghost. Like, what that could lead to a lot of great possibilities. Like I said, I like Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon. I like their chemistry together. I even like seeing the old Ghostbusters together. Like I said, it's fun seeing these characters I grew up with. And I say they didn't do a whole lot in the end of the movie. They do eventually are the thing that eventually shuts down the evil guy's threat. Like, they take down the bad guy, and they're all working together, get on that front. Like, I do like that, and I do like seeing them back in here again. And you never know, this could be the last time we may see them all together again, but you never really know. But I like the new characters they have. I like Kamal Nanjiani. I thought he was pretty good in here, even though I was a little bit skeptical about where they were going to go with him. But Patton Oswalt I thought was pretty cool too. I do like that the whole idea of this movie is kind of like essentially to be a real Ghostbusters episode blown up into a movie, because it definitely feels like that. And you could definitely tell that there was there are a lot of nostalgic homages here. And to me, somebody that grew up with this series and loved all these movies, I didn't mind it so much. I liked what they did with it. Plus, it's also the 40th anniversary of the first movie. It's an anniversary film, and it's also the first film made without Ivan Reitman there, because he passed away a couple months after Ghostbusters Afterlife. So, for me personally, I didn't mind those things whatsoever. I do like the visuals. The visuals overall are very fun. Like, I like seeing Slimer back again, even though he's not really given a whole lot to do. I like the action sequences. There is a lot of fun in that final climax. Like I said, seeing the Death Chill taking over New York City and seeing like everybody running for their lives when these icicles are coming at them. It's just like, that's fun. That's fun. That's the stuff I wanted to see. Do I wish they would have delved more into it? Absolutely. I mean, I feel like there's more that this movie really could have done, but it just really didn't go as much. It didn't go as far as I wish they wanted it to go, and I really wish that they really would have went that way. But like I said, there are a lot of fun elements to it. It's a fun movie. And really, all the Ghostbusters movies have been fun in their own ways. Like, if I had to rank the Ghostbusters movies from beginning to end, I originally had this at the bottom of the list here, but the more I thought about it, I would basically go like this: original Ghostbusters, that's always going to be too hard to top. Ghostbusters Afterlife is a strong second place. It comes as close to being as good as the original Ghostbusters film, and Ghostbusters 2 probably third. I'd probably put Frozen Empire in fourth, and then probably 2016 in five as the worst Ghostbusters movie. But like I said, it's the worst Ghostbusters movie, but there's not really a bad Ghostbusters movie. There really is not, and I really like this movie a lot. I thought it was fun. I don't think it's going to be one that I'd watch on repeat viewing, but if it shows up on FX one time over the next couple of years, I'd definitely watch it again. Like, I would watch this again with the other Ghostbusters movies and have fun with it. I mean, there's a lot of things about it that I really do like. Like I said, it's probably the last time we'll see these guys together again, unless they make another film, which they probably will, considering how well this movie's probably going to do. But I would like the passing of the baton to come for the old Ghostbusters and to have the new Ghostbusters take over from this point on. I mean, you could still have them back here in some way, shape, or form, but I don't think they should have like a big prominent role like they have in this movie. It's funny because they say it's a special. In the credits, it says special appearances by Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, William Atherton. It's just like, but they're there for more than just a special appearance. And I don't know. Like, to me, if they're going to continue this with the other movies in the series, which I'm assuming they're going to do, I would like to see more of the newer Ghostbusters taking control of the story going forward. But yeah. Overall, my final thoughts on Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. I think there are no bad Ghostbusters movies, and this is probably the second to worst one. But even then, it's still a fun movie. There is still a lot of fun aspects to it. On a Saturday afternoon, you can go take your kids to see it. You can go, and if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you'll definitely love it too. It definitely has the feel of a real Ghostbusters episode blown up for the big screen. The cast is still charming to watch. There's still a lot of fun. A better story and better uses of the subplots probably would have helped this film a lot more. Trying to think of what else I could say against the film, but yeah, I mean, overall, I still think it's a really fun movie. I still had a ton of fun with it, even though I went into it with lower expectations. I think that's probably the best thing you should do. If you're going in there expecting another masterpiece on the level of Ghostbusters Afterlife, which I wouldn't say masterpiece, but it was still my favorite movie of that year, 2021. But if you're going in there expecting something like that, prepare to be a little bit disappointed. But if you go into it knowing the Ghostbusters lore and knowing that you're going into it hoping for a fun movie, I think you could definitely have a good time with it. I give this movie a thumbs up, a good thumbs up. And it's one where I would say, it's kind of how I feel about Kung Fu Panda 4. It's a sequel that does not need to exist, but it exists, and it's fun for what it is. I think it works well for what it's trying to accomplish. And I really enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed it enough to say I would recommend it. And I think it is a fun ride. I think it's a very enjoyable film. I don't agree that it's a bad movie like most people are like most people have been saying. Not just Rotten Tomatoes, but a lot of people that I know have said it's a bad movie. But I don't think it is. But again, that's just my personal opinion on it. So I'd like to know your opinion on Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. Let me know in the comments down below. And next week, of course, we wrap up the month of March with the biggest with another big new release, and that is Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, which of course is a sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong. And like I said, the MonsterVerse, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the MonsterVerse and the Conjuring are the two WB franchises where you don't really need a Marvel Cinematic Universe like for DC. It's like, you already have it in the Conjuring and Godzilla and the MonsterVerse. I mean, just go with those and move along here. But of course they're not going to do that now, and we'll see what James Gunn can do with the DC studios. But that's for next week in particular. But like I said, if you saw Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire, did you agree with me? Or do you think it's as bad as everyone says it is? Let me know your thoughts down below. But with that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. So until then, Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.